We talk about this, the COP30 climate summit. It's currently underway in Belém, Brazil, with a strong call for unity from the UN's top climate official. Brazil is, as host, managed to broker an early deal on the summit's agenda, steering the talks away from the potential gridlock after some developing nations push to include hot-button issues like climate finance and carbon taxes. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has told the opening meeting of the UN climate talks the world must defeat climate denialism and fight fake news, he said. To talk more about the conference, we speak now to Greenpeace Political Strategist Koaile Monaheng, who is at COP30. A very good evening to you, Koaile, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So first, let's talk about the protests that have been staged there at the summit. What were they about and by whom?
Thank you so much, Tsepiso, for having me. On the protest, I'd like to say no comment. That's the position we're taking from a Greenpeace perspective.
Why is that?
It's a complex, very sensitive issue. So we are being in the Amazon, so that's our stance at this point for now.
Okay, are you suggesting that it's something that would put you in danger if you commented on it?
Oh, not necessarily, no. It's simply just about respecting the sensitivities of where we are at the moment. All the different parties coming together to so that we get a good deal. So there's a lot that is quite complex about being here at this time. So there's a no comment on that regard.
It's such a pity because I'm even struggling to hear that answer, Koaile, so that our viewers, listeners could understand it, because it's quite jarring to just simply say no comment in the context that you are at COP30, and as Greenpeace you have been known, you've got a long history of speaking out about some of these issues, but nonetheless we'll move along. So you've been at the summit now for 2 days. Can you just tell us what has happened so far, and also speak a little bit more about the absence of President Donald Trump, although I'd imagine that there's not much surprise there, particularly when we're talking about climate denialism.
Absolutely. We're here in Belém at COP30, and we're championing multilateralism, which is about moving together. And while U.S. absence is notable, Africa cannot afford to wait. And I think the quote of if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together is resonating with all of us here, and we're pushing forward regardless, because climate action can't pause for politics. So in Belém, the outcomes that we've seen so far include the landmark Loss and Damage Fund, which was initially launched at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt during COP27, has launched its first awaited call for funding proposal that launched yesterday here in Belém. And that's a strong signal addressing impacts for the most vulnerable countries. And these pledges have been made, yes, before at previous COPs. And these funds that have been pledged barely scratch the surface to quantify the magnitude of what is needed, but it's a start nonetheless. Secondly, we've seen funding pledges for the Congo Basin, in addition to the two FFF, included by an announcement by European nations as the Leaders Summit last week, pledging over 2.5 billion for the Congo Basin as a fair direction of travel. And then lastly, on one announcement, and this happened just an hour ago, there have been developments coming out of the Just Transition Working Program. And what we're hearing is that there is a transition minerals text that's formally on the table in the draft text, and this has been proposed by several parties. And it's only day 3, and these developments illustrate that minerals issues are on track to be reflected in the COP30 outcome. Ours, as civil society and NGOs, is to ensure that governance of these minerals is stronger. And these are the main outcomes that have been proposed so far at COP30.
And of those 3 issues that you've mentioned, I'd imagine that language is also most important. What are you hoping for as Greenpeace? What are non-negotiables, if there are any?
Absolutely. Our mandate here at COP30 is simple. We are telling the African story, one rooted in justice, courage, and hope. And we come to COP after one of the worst climate years for Africa. 2025 has marked one of the deadliest crises in more than a decade. If we talk about our continent, in Southern Africa, Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe have faced our worst drought in 20 years. In East Africa, we've seen severe flooding, which is swept through Kenya and Tanzania as well as Burundi. Hundreds of lives have been lost with over 700,000 people affected. And so at the heart of this COP is simple. For Africa, which contributes less than 4% to total emissions, we're still facing the most devastating impacts. And that's why we're here in Belém. And I'll take you through Greenpeace's three main pushes, which is forest, fossil fuels, and finance. On forests, we're amplifying the voices of indigenous peoples and local communities from the Congo Basin, which is the second largest rainforest in the world, to be recognized as custodians of the land. We're calling for a COP30 forest action plan that halts deforestation and reverses it by 2030, which was initially proposed at COP28 in Dubai. We're also demanding protection for forests and biodiversity from destructive fossil fuel projects and illegal logging, and we want direct access for finance for local communities, not top-down promises that never reach the ground. Just this week alone, as Greenpeace, we're delivering a petition signed by over 20,000 Africans and counting and handing this over to key African negotiators, urging leaders to put forest protection and people first. In addition, we're also advocating for a just energy transition, which is not only about clean technology, it's about energy access and dignity. We're calling for no new fossil fuel expansion that breaks the 1.5 limit, because for Africa, 1.5 is not just a target, it's a threshold of survival. And then lastly, on climate finance and justice, the message is simple for us here: the polluters must pay. Our continent is losing 2 to 5% of GDP every year because of climate impacts that we never created. And therefore, we're calling for progressive environmental taxes and fossil fuel profits and higher emitters to fund adaptation and recovery. Those are three main pushes.
All right, Koaile, thank you so much for speaking to us. Unfortunately, the line is not the best, so I'm also struggling to hear a great deal of what you're saying, but we do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Koaile Monaheng is with Greenpeace. He's a political strategist there. He's at COP30 in Brazil.